Right now on Tech Radio, it's all a mess.
Hi, I'm Artemis. I am a computer-generated AI voice, and you're listening to Tech Radio.
Every week online and on air with RT Radio, we bring you the very latest in tech from Ireland and across the world. You're welcome to episode 1030, looking back on the 7 biggest stories of the week, including a popping AI bubble. Our TikTok Taoiseach is getting tough on social media, and another of our beloved devices gets canned.
From techcentral.ie, this is Tech Radio with Dusty Rhodes and Niall Kitson.
I'm Dusty. Joining me as always, our editor-in-chief, Niall Kitson. We'll go first with the money.
We'll go with the money. There's quite a lot of money floating around this week.
Or not, as the case may be. Yeah. Stock markets are all a fluster. Why?
Okay, well, on Monday, stock markets were on a fluster, and they were on a fluster in Japan, where the Nikkei lost 12.4% of its value, wiping out all the gains it made this year. And this was basically on the back of AI and big tech, and in particular, big tech's investment in AI. We know that Google has invested loads in AI, not getting a return just yet. AWS, massive investment in AI, no return yet. I mean, you can see the trend here. Companies are going big into AI, and now investors are going, hang on, what are we spending money on here? We are literally spending trillions of dollars on something we don't understand and that people in the main aren't using yet. It's not an essential in people's lives. It's kind of a nice to have. Why are we pouring money into nice to haves at this level? As a result, people got antsy because stock markets are just based on emotion. And when people start getting antsy, they pull their money out. And that's what happened. And as a result, there was a massive dip in the Nikkei. However, what happened the next day? It was largely replaced. The money largely came back. I mean, we're still down a little bit for the week. I think about 3%, probably at time of talking. But I mean, this was like a momentous day last Monday. I mean, on a par with Black Monday in 1987, when billions and were wiped off shares in one day. Of course, we've got inflation now, where we get to talk about trillions. But so let's look at the market and what prompted so many people to pull out. At the moment, there's around 200 AI companies out there that are considered unicorns, that are valued at $1 billion or more. And investors have started looking at the fine print, if you will, and go, well, 200 companies that do what? And am I using them? And that's where the problem started, because I'm not using them and they're very expensive. And they've got inflated valuations. So ultimately, did things rectify? Yes, they did. However, very important to see big tech, get a bloody nose over these things. It shows that they're not too big to take a hit. They're not too big to fail. And when you have, Apple, Microsoft, AWS, NVIDIA, when you have all the so-called Magnificent Seven getting hit all at the same time, because bear in mind, the US results for these companies have not been fantastic either. And again, it's been this thing of massive investment in AI, very limited return. And we're going to be seeing this for a while. For as long as there's massive investment with very little return, we're going to see a lot of volatility on the stock markets. Anyway, that's the short version of what happened.
So the short version of what happened, does it remind you of the internet bubble where, all of a sudden in the 90s, everybody discovered the internet, and same thing. They were pumping billions and billions of dollars into it, and all these new companies were popping up, and all of a sudden everybody was using them. And I'm thinking of a Netscape and Real Media and all these names that are long since gone. And again, one day in the late 90s, somebody went, well, hang on a minute. We've put all this money in.
Where's
and nobody's making a profit. Yeah, what's going on? It all sounds strikingly familiar, doesn't it?
Does a bit. The difference, I suppose, is that AI is a technology that's here to stay. The question is it mature enough to bother investing in?
For big companies, I think like Amazon and Google, yes, their pockets are deep enough and they'll be able to do it and they will reap the rewards. Though probably in 7 years or whatever. I mean, it takes a long time for it. As you say, when the internet was here first and when Amazon first started, people were very nervous about using credit cards. And it took years for them to build that up. But they stuck through it and look at them now, like, you know. So I think whoever is in AI, if they stick through it, they will reap the rewards in 2030. I wonder how this is going to affect actually things here in Ireland. There's another story that came up and it's about kind of EirGrid had a release during the week and they were saying that Ireland is in trouble. We're in trouble because we don't have a future IT plan. All right. Ireland Inc. knows where it is we want to go and what it is we have to do, but we don't actually have a plan to get from A to B.
Right.
We're working on it. We've got some great ideas, but there's no plan. And what happens with all of these big companies, like, you know, kind of Facebook and Microsoft and stuff like that, they don't do uncertainty, not with data centers. They want to know exactly that. They're kind of saying, all right, well, what's the story in 2030, 2035, 2040, probably even. And EirGrid are kind of warning that if Ireland does not get our act together, that they may get antsy and be gone. And that's a problem because what's the one thing we hear in the news all the time? How big these companies are and how much they contribute to the Irish economy.
Yeah, especially in corporate tax. I mean, we're in a sort of a windfall state at the moment, relying on an awful lot of that overseas. Nice green stuff. I
think we had the National Broadband Plan, and that's not a great example. That's not a great example. Why don't we do a national IT data center plan, just like the broadband one, which works so well? Not.
Well, you raised this last week, I think, where it was the amount of energy used by data centers in Ireland now exceeds the amount of energy used by homes. That's the scale that we're looking at the moment.
Yeah.
You know, our national grid wasn't built to deal with this kind of demand, to the point that maybe we should be looking at things like microgrids, where data centers effectively look after themselves without being connected to the national infrastructure.
Well, you see, there's the argument that's going on, and I think that's probably what's delaying it, because everybody wants to be carbon zero, and EirGrid are kind of going, listen, carbon zero is impossible. It's just not going to happen. I mean, it's a great goal to have, and that's where we want to get, and we will get there. But talking about carbon zero now or in the next, 5-7 years, forget it. And what EirGrid is saying is we should be looking for, kind of low carbon first, and then move on to zero carbon, I love they said they want to work with operators that were innovative and prepared to be flexible. Says a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Anyways, that's the data centers. Elsewhere in the news this week, our old friend Elon Musk has been talking to the world.
We should just devote a little corner of the show to things Elon Musk did this week.
That's not a bad idea, actually. Yes, and we get an AI, of course, to voice it.
Oh, that'd be perfect.
Actually, what we could do, all right, is we could get an AI Elon Musk to voice it, all right, and it could be a feature called "This is what I did this week."
Yeah, we could get an AI to read all the sources of Elon Musk stuff during the week, summarize it, and then get it read by a voice.
What's the name of the thing on Twitter X where you call community standards? Is that it?
Community notes. Yeah.
Community notes. All right. That seems to be anything I've seen from him this week. It seems to be something absolutely ridiculous and crazy and out there. And he just goes, "Is community notes? Is this correct? Can you check it?" It's like you can't do that. It's like on Have I Got News for You? For years, they would say something absolutely ridiculous and then go, allegedly.
Yeah.
Doesn't cover you. Anyway, listen, what exactly has Elon Musk been doing this week that's kept us entertained?
Yeah, well, you might remember back in November at the end of last year, he was being interviewed. His public interview, I think, with Kara Swisher. And he basically said advertisers could go F themselves. We're all smart enough to fill in the rest of that. He had just taken over. He took over in 2022, paid 44 billion, a ridiculously inflated price. He is having trouble. Well, I mean, how can you not have trouble making the interest payments? He went and he fired anyone that he didn't think was particularly useful. So that meant his PR team, fired a load of developers, fired his content moderation team. How would that never come back to haunt you? And this is where he is now. In an interview late last year, he was asked about advertising on the platform, and he said advertisers could go blank themselves, to which an awful lot did. An awful lot of advertisers just went, okay, we want nothing to do with a platform that amplifies opinions on the far right, that allows the spread of misinformation and disinformation, that allows bad actors to go unchecked. We're not into it. We don't want to see our brand associated or placed next to any of that stuff. So guess what? We're out of here. And eventually the penny seems to have dropped that actually we needed those guys to make money, because God knows those blue ticks are not shifting. I think they make something. I can't remember how much they make off blue ticks, but it's barely an interest payment. They do not make money off selling blue ticks. It doesn't matter how many extra features you want to put on it. So the latest development in Xland is that they are suing GARM, G-A-R-M, or the Global Alliance for Responsible Media. And the argument X is making is that the members of GARM conspired against X. They all sat down together and said, you know what, we're not advertising on that X anymore. We don't like them. We don't like that they allow free speech. And as a result, all the members sort of pull their advertising from it. Unfortunately, there's a couple of holes in that argument. One is that X is a member of GARM.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So the chief executive of X, Linda Yaccarino, came out and said, people are hurt when the marketplace of ideas is constricted. No small group of people should monopolize what gets monetized. To which you go, brilliant. So what does your boss do?
Oh, you are on fire today.
Stop. But I mean, their argument is completely ridiculous. In America, they have something called SLAPP or anti-SLAPP laws. SLAPP is effectively when someone who is incredibly wealthy takes out a lawsuit against somebody who isn't, on the assumption that they will just basically, force a settlement or lead to the end of a legal action just because the person can't afford it.
Yeah.
And there are laws in place to make sure this doesn't happen. So you can imagine that, Musk is going to lawyer up with some very expensive lawyers, but GARM is also going to lawyer up with some very, very expensive lawyers. And we will see what kind of anti-SLAPP action happens. Do you think X has a case here?
Oh, of course they have not got a leg to stand on. What kind of a company am I going to sue you because you didn't buy from me? I mean, in what planet does that work? Oh, no, I've lost you as a customer, so I'm going to sue you because you didn't spend money. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But that kind of leads me on to what the heck is he up to, or what is in his head? Or are we watching an actual Musk mental breakdown? All right. Because he's been doing this ridiculous, I'm going to sue you because all of you ganged up against me and didn't advertise on my platform. But also he's taken issue with Keir Starmer in the UK, and he is wading in there, like not gently in any way. And he is saying that the UK is going to fall into civil war. I mean, somebody with 200 million followers on social media just can't say that.
No, he doesn't seem to accept that his position comes with a modicum of responsibility, a duty of care to people who use his platform. He just wants a great big megaphone in the exact same way that Trump wants a megaphone in Truth Social.
And it's kind of interesting in that Musk and Trump are kind of, I won't say buddies, but they're kind of, they like each other. They get on. They would support each other that kind of way. So you've got two narcissistic mega billionaires, whatever, the two of the most powerful people in the world. And they're both going out saying ridiculous things.
Yeah.
Why? What's going on in the global world order? I'm veering into conspiracy theory now.
You always do.
I always do. But what is going on in the world when you've got people like that? I was saying it the other day, and what I thought was very interesting about Elon Musk and saying that on Twitter, okay, it may be ridiculous. It's like Donald Trump, okay? He says something ridiculous, but just saying that the UK civil war, all right, just putting those words into millions of people's heads is a dangerous thing on its own.
Oh, yeah. It's
even
like
if it's
keywords.
a joke.
Yeah. It's like
exactly.
SEO and a good keyword.
It's interesting. We'll keep an eye on that. And he'll do something crazy next week. I think we're definitely going to have to go and get an AI Elon Musk together. Yeah. Here's what I did with my week. The Elon Musk diary. That's what we could call it. Dear diary. That's what we could do. But listen, speaking of people in danger and things working out quite badly on social media and stuff like that, Simon Harris, our TikTok Taoiseach, he is not having a good time at the minute. Tell me all.
No. And we've heard this story, variations thereof. I mean, initially his house was targeted by far-right activists. Now his family has had to be removed from their home, which is absolutely disgraceful and abhorrent.
Criminal. It's
behavior.
criminal. Yeah,
criminal behavior. Yeah. By, let's face it, not the sharpest tools in our national toolbox. He issued a statement basically saying, look, politicians are, we're grown-ups. We're used to taking the odd nick, the odd tumble. That's part of the job. But there are lines, and do you know what? There's people profiting from those lines being crossed. So we've got to do something about it. So he has come out and said, look, we're going to hit these people where it hurts. And when it comes to big business, there's only one place where it hurts.
Cha-ching!
Cha-ching. That's the only thing they will listen to. If something, it's just like Theranos. It was when it was discovered that they were messing with the money, that's when things really fell apart. However,
but when you say now messing with the money, you're not talking about the people who are causing the trouble. You're talking about the platforms that they are using to spread their misinformation.
Absolutely. And when it becomes apparent that it's more costly to spread misinformation than to employ moderators to make sure it doesn't go anywhere, to make sure that the platform is tightly regulated, then I think you'll see a lot of movement on it.
Yeah, but hang on. Where are you going? I think we'll see a lot of movement because if that is all in place. We have a Digital Services Act. We have an online safety code with Commission Demand. We have fines and methods in place. The social media platforms are responsible for the stuff that goes onto their platform, and that's why they have moderators. So what's gone wrong? Why has Simon Harris got such a bum deal out of this?
Well, Commission Demand doesn't come on stream fully until the end of the year. Right.
Okay.
So the structure is in place, but it doesn't go live until the end of the year. So effectively, it's vaporware at the moment. It is happening, but it's just not up and operational just yet. And if you look at the various targets that we have, it's all of them. It's all of the players. Well, maybe not. Yeah, it's all of the players.
Yeah. I'm thinking Facebook and Meta, they're well tooled up with moderators at this stage. X is the one where you kind of go,
Yeah.
So do you think that Ireland is going to go after X again?
Already is. Under the GDPR, Ireland is suing X for using data created by EU citizens to train its large language model behind the generative AI Grok, which is meant to be their sassy, sarcastic AI, which we haven't seen anything of it yet. It's just been promised that, it's going to be, I'm sure, truthful, inverted commas.
So we're in a situation then at the moment where Commissioner Mon, who'll be looking after all media, they're essentially at the dentist having their new teeth put in.
Having their fangs put in.
Having their fangs put in, big steel, like Jaws from the the James Bond movies, great big steel gnashers, and then they'll just come after them all. Done. I hope they do, because like that kind of carry on. There's lots of rubbish that goes on social media and stuff like that, and if you have a modicum of intelligence, you will know. Though, mind you, I hope my brother doesn't listen to this podcast. He is constantly on WhatsApp and our little family group going, "Oh, warning for you lads, new virus. There's a new scam going around to do with your bank. If you get an email saying," I'm like, oh my God. Like, he's so 2003. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But not everybody is up to speed on these things. So, anyway, I feel sorry for Simon Harris and what's going on. And to have a family having to move out of the home, that is absolutely unforgivable. It's
disgraceful.
As you say, it's a red line and a great big, it's not a pen, it's a big paintbrush red line going across it. Other stories this week. Now this is very interesting. Alphabet and Google, a US judge in a long running case has finally come out with his ruling, and this could put a bomb under everything.
Might, and it might not. US District Judge Amit Mehta was presiding over a case taken by the US Department of Justice against Google parent company Alphabet. The argument being that this big tech company has actually gotten too big. That what we have is effectively a monopoly in search and a monopoly in text-based online ads. Not much argument that that's pretty much the case. However, here's the question. One of Google's most profitable parts of its business is search still. Apparently, if Google were to lose search, that would be about 65% of its revenue gone.
Wow.
Yeah. So, if Google lost its default deal with Apple, Google would lose around 2/3 of its revenue. So just imagine the way every iPhone just comes with Google preloaded as a search engine in Safari.
I think that's the other way around, Niall.
Oh,
I think that's the other. Yeah, because I think what it is, it sounds like Google is brilliant. Okay, sorry, Google was brilliant anyway. Lately, it's just rubbish. But anyways, it had built itself up, and it was a really good service, and a lot of people use it, and it grew and it grew and it grew, and then they developed their own browser, and they made that brilliant, and then everybody just started using it. Okay, you could draw some kind of an argument where you're going, you're penalizing us because we're fantastic. But then you don't know what's happening in the background, all right? And one of the things that I heard that was happening in the background was that Google did a deal with Apple, okay? Yeah. And the deal was, on all Apple devices, Google will be the default search engine, the default choice. And Apple went, all right, okay, well, we'll have to get a payment for that. And Google went, okay, well, how much do you want? And Apple said, 20 billion. $20 billion just to go, okay, you can be the default search engine. People can still choose other ones, but you'll be the default. 20 billion for literally almost not lifting a finger. A line of code. Which search engine should I use in my Safari browser? Oh, go to Google. There you go. Boom, full stop. Semicolon, I should say at the end. Done. 20 billion in the bank.
Yeah.
That the deals like that then are a little bit crazy. So now that judge has kind of said, right, we've done our case, we've done our study, Google is definitely a monopoly in certain areas. What's going to happen next?
Well, the next move, assuming that this decision is upheld, because we know this is going to run through all the courts all the way up to the Supreme Court. This is basically shots fired and not an awful lot else. How do you propose to break up Google if you had to?
I think the first thing that comes to my mind is to do what they did with Microsoft.
Okay.
And they said, all right, Microsoft, you need to break yourself off into component companies.
Right.
and component services. And this is something that happens with, like Microsoft had the Explorer browser built into its operating system. And it was dominant at the time. And they said, no, you can't do that. You need to break it out. So I think they might do that.
Right.
How will they do that?
So you would, spin out Chrome? You'd spin out Android?
Yeah.
What would you do to hang on to search? Well, an interesting point the judge made in his decision was that, I appreciate that Google innovates in search. You go out and you do things and you try new things, but in a way that's actually acting like a company that has a monopoly, because you do innovate so much with search. You do potentially undercut your product, that there is nowhere else people can realistically go.
And that's coming back to what we started out the conversation about AI. They've built themselves up and they made so much money, and then their pockets became so deep, they were able to play. How many things have Google introduced and said, we're going to try this, and billions of dollars went into it, and then it died. Yeah. So you're right. Because they are that big, they're able to do that. And as you're saying, it's kind of like the circuit is going around twice. Because they're doing that, they become even more dominant. It's interesting. Would they separate Chrome, separate Android, search, advertising, the Google Workspace, all of the things that they do? I think that's what's going to happen anyway. And actually, do you know what? I don't think that Google search is necessarily going to be the future, because if you look at what AI can do now, and I'm thinking of Perplexity in particular, which is an Amazon company, you go to Perplexity and instead of like searching Google and saying, who had a number one hit in 1964 or blah, 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 and then Google gives you 15 irrelevant website results, Perplexity will just go, yeah, it was blah, 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 Beyonce and Jay-Z singing Crazy in Love or whatever. So, I think Google has that case on its mind, and I think it also has a problem with search in the first place. So maybe just the natural order of things with AI coming along, somebody else is going to come along and just take over anyway.
Yeah, and I've heard that in a few quarters, that as soon as opinion, I guess, is taken out of search, that's it. So just like, give me this, and that's it.
All right, listen, also with Google this week, now we're saying goodbye to one of our favorite Google gadgets. And what I loved about it was, I can't remember, that 30, 35, 40 quid or something is what I paid for the few around. The Chromecast, dead. R.I.P. Long live the Chromecast.
Yeah. Being discontinued in favor of a little something called the Google TV Streamer. Now, for me, the Chromecast is an example of what I would call a perfect device. Limited feature set, limited functionality, but does it really well.
Yeah.
Right? I would put it on a par with the 5th generation iPod. Limited functionality, really brilliant execution. Everything thereafter was just whatever.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about the Chromecast. Now it is being removed from the market. It is still being supported. So it's not a case of, you go to turn it on in the morning and it won't work anymore. But your next device will be the Google TV Streamer, to which we have 4K, we've got HDR, we've got HDMI 2.1, we've got spatial audio, Dolby Atmos sound, and it's also got an Ethernet port, which is new and exciting. Now, here's the thing. I mean, why would you go for a new device? It's going to cost around €100, about as much as the 4K Chromecast when it came out at first.
So we have the Chromecast. They've killed it. Now they're bringing in a new unit that's twice as expensive, and it has all the ports and the 4K, and it shows TV shows. What is it doing for the extra 50 quid that's going to change my life?
Oh, you know what it's doing. It's adding a little something.
Don't tell me, not AI.
It's adding a little something called Gemini. And here's some examples of what apparently it will do. That's fantastic. It's going to give you watch lists. It's going to give you recommendations. Fair enough. We have that anyway. No news there. One thing that it can do is it can summarize what has happened in an episode for you, or indeed whole series.
Yippity-doo-dah-day.
Is that worth €50 to you?
No, it's not worth €50 to me. But I mean, do we need an AI to do that? I mean, once the series is summarized, that's it. It's done. It just lives as text there forever. You just get a farm full of writers and get them to do it.
Yeah,
you don't need AI.
Just ask a friend. What happened? Did I miss anything?
Well, exactly. That's where it's going. It's going, but yes, that's where it's going, because I can see myself. I can kind of go, hey, Google, what happened in the last episode? And then I'm completely forgetting that it's a streamer. So I can just watch the last episode. Unless you get one of these. Do you know actually where the AI would be really good? Is when you start a box set and the first 2 episodes are brilliant. And then the 3rd episode is okay. And the 4th episode is a bit... You want to be able to say to Google, hey, Google, is the rest of this worth watching? Should I just give up now? That could be quite good. All right. What else? Space news. You have space news for me. I love this.
I have space news. Well, you love a good space story.
I love a good space story. Go on.
You also love a bit of a horror show as well. And this is kind of where we are at the moment. So I want you to spare a thought for Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams, 2 experienced astronauts currently up on the International Space Station. They were due to be picked up by Boeing's Starliner and return to Earth at the end of their mission, and it might not be happening. And because it might not be happening, they're going to have to wait for the next mission to come up, and it could be maybe February before they're brought back to Earth.
Oh my God. So how long will they be? Like, they are literally stuck in space.
They are stuck in space. So
it's the worst case ever of missing a bus.
Pretty much. So what's happening at the moment is Boeing and NASA are sitting down and having discussions, because apparently there's a problem with the thrusters on the Starliner. And NASA isn't entirely convinced that they're up to the job of returning to Earth. Not so much getting up into space, but returning to Earth. So Boeing is, of course, no, it's totes cool. Trust us. And NASA are like, well, we're not entirely sure we should. Yeah.
Have you seen your aircraft?
There you go. I wasn't going to go there, but you did.
I did. Go on anyway. Continue.
So a decision is being made in mid-August. If things go well, they should be home, I think, September. If it doesn't, they're going to have to hang on till February. That's a long wait. It's a long wait. So,
what gender are the 2 of them?
Well, one guy, one gal.
Wow. Do you think they might be coming home with 3?
Oh, that's mean. That's mean.
That's not mean. It's not mean. I'm sitting in a tin can flying around the world. David Bowie lyrics there. What else are you going to do? You know, it's not like you've got broadband.
Well, I'm sure they'll be sent jobs to do. I'm sure they'll be sent things.
Maybe one of the jobs will be, we have a great experiment in mind.
That was a move. That was Moonraker, wasn't it? Wasn't that the plot of Moonraker?
What, to have a baby in space?
To like have a new civilization in space on the moon?
Oh, thing? Probably. Now, come on, that's the storyline of 100 different sci-fi movies. There you go. Moonraker, James Bond, the well-known sci-fi franchise.
also an episode of Battlestar Galactica 1983.
Oh, you're going with the original Battlestar Galactica. All right, yeah.
Yeah, not the one we like.
Not the one we like, which was utterly brilliant. And I have to say, if you listen to the podcast and you've not seen Battlestar Galactica, which was made in what, 2010?
2005.
2005, was it?
Yeah.
Just go and watch. If you like science fiction, it's absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Anyway, I'll make a note in my diary, or Elon Musk's diary, to check things in 2025 and see how things are going with that pair. All right. Listen, that is it for the news for this week. Niall, as always, thanks for keeping us up to date.
This is Tech Radio with Dusty Rhodes and Niall Kitson.
That is actually it for our show this week. A ton more stories actually that we didn't get to chat about in the podcast, but are online for you. What have we got now?
Yeah, we have friend of the show, Cara O'Carroll, on CrowdStrike's recent crisis management effort. Of course, we were talking about that an awful lot on the show. We have a new emergency plan from the National Cybersecurity Centre and an interview with Tech Excellence Awards Lifetime Achievement winner, John Purdy.
All of those and more online for you right now at techcentral.ie. Listen, we're back next Friday with a brand new show online and with RTE Radio 1 Extra. In the meantime, please remember to share the podcast with a friend. If they're into tech, just tell them to look up Tech Radio Ireland on Apple, Spotify, or now also on YouTube. Until next time, from myself, Dusty Rhodes, and from Niall Kitson, have a great weekend.
Remember, you can get the latest Irish tech news with hourly updates, daily newsletters, and more at our website, techcentral.ie. Share the knowledge and invite a friend to listen. Search Apple, Spotify, or YouTube for Tech Radio Ireland, or listen with RTE Radio 1 Extra. Tech Radio is produced by dustpod.io for techcentral.ie. From me, Artemis, live long and prosper.